All right, so let me start by mentioning a few megatrends that are impacting the food situation right now. You all are familiar with the rapid growth in world population. We are going to have about 10 billion people by 2050. And one of the most important aspects of this is the rapid expansion of middle class in Asia. And that is causing tremendous pressure on protein demand. And we'll talk about it as we go into sessions as well. Also, along these major changes, we are facing climate change. So the issue of sustainability for agriculture and food production is a central issue. And then, as if we didn't have enough challenges, we are now in the middle of a health crisis of the pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic. And on top of that, to the cherry on top of the parfait was the social gaps and inequities. So it's like very unsettled times, very uneasy times for most of us. For many people, it's quite painful, loss of life, loss of property, loss of hope. So, but let's talk about seeing what else we can observe and do. One of the interesting aspects of the population growth is that we have this dichotomy of hungry versus the overfed and malnourished. There are about 800 million people who are hungry, not getting enough calories per day. 265 of those are on the verge of starvation. These are very tragic numbers. We need to think about ways of mitigating this. On the other hand, we have about 2 billion people who are overfed but malnourished, and they are facing obesity, chronic diseases, and many metabolic illnesses that are associated with bad choices of food and bad diets. I mentioned the growth of the population, middle-class population in Asia. It's an astonishing rise in middle-class population. By 2030, the population of middle class in Asia Pacific only is going to be 5 times that of Europe and 10 times that of North America, which means we need to have 50% more protein than we have today. In 10 years, we need to increase the amount of protein for 50%. That's a huge challenge. And of course, we need to increase the total overall food availability by 70%. All right, so here's what I would like us to, I'd like to frame the general conversation, the base of the conversation today. I think we are in a bioeconomy century, or era, if you will. I just read a report by McKinsey, just a couple of weeks ago came out, and what it said was, that caught my eyes, was 60% of global physical input is biology-based, just using the current available technologies. This is not to speak of any new technologies that would come available, let's say next year, 2 years from now. But right now, using all of the technologies, 60% of the global physical input is biology-based. So anything that is related to health, agriculture, food, fiber, wellness, biomaterials, this is all part of this big bioeconomy. Okay, so now, how did we get to this bioeconomy? It's been going on for, I would say, a couple of decades now. And what has happened is a number of convergences that we have had. Obviously, we had the digital century starting in 2000 and beyond in the 21st century. The digital revolution and century began, and the convergence of that with the biology, computational biology, brought a whole new era of capabilities that we could have never thought about before. And then, of course, many people refer to the Asia century because Asia is rising at a very rapid pace. So all of these convergences are resulting in this bioeconomy era and contributing in significant ways. Okay, so let's move on to now post-pandemic realities. What do we see happening after the pandemic? Do we see any new emerging patterns that we can identify and take advantage to address food security issues? What we are seeing is the first one that we saw was the breaking of supply chains. Decades of globalization and centralization was a major issue that brought this about. Not just globalization, but centralized food processing and plants. So we're going to see deglobalization, decentralization, and a more distributed food system. The other thing that is emerging, trend that is emerging, is heightened awareness of health issues. I think health awareness is an all-time high right now. At least in the US, what I see is on a daily basis, people are extremely focused on health issues. And people are thinking about food for health and food for medicine. So these are two different things, but they fall under the way we want to improve our health via better choices, better diet. And of course, advances in biotechnology is allowing us to make personalized nutrition available to people, so you can tailor and customize your daily diet and nutrition profile by using these genetic tools. Nothing, a very obvious part is also the high unemployment we see. I think the high unemployment is going to be with us for a while, even though the public markets are acting like everything is okay. But to get back to pre-pandemic employment levels, it would take a couple of years at least. So what is happening because of the high unemployment, when people don't have income or lower wages or lower income, they're going to make different choices than they did before. For example, they're going to spend what money they have on essentials like food and health, and cut back on discretionary spending, like going to a bar or going to a movie or a hotel or a resort. So, and because of the breakdown in food supply chains, we are seeing increase in food prices. So one of the fallouts would be that we may see inflationary pressures in food prices, but deflationary pressures in discretionary spending. To make this bifurcation and another dichotomy, making things quite complicated. And of course, I'm sure you have done more online shopping than you had done in the last year or so because of staying at home. So, and all of this e-commerce and a stay at home, work at home resulted in astonishing 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, we leapfrogged 5 years of digitalization. I think this pattern of work from home may have developed over time, but it could have taken 5 years. We did it in about 5 weeks. It's astonishing. And I don't think it's a trend that it's going to die away when the pandemic or the vaccine or therapeutics are available. I think a lot of people are realizing we can do fine working from home. Many of us work at desk anyway. And then the one that I love the most, I think is a very positive aspect, is that people, general public, are getting a good grasp of the power of biology, both in terms of the devastating trauma that it could cause in our life, and also its power to be a healing tool in terms of creating vaccines or healthy food or whatever. So people are becoming extremely aware of the power of biology. That to me is a very positive aspect of this pandemic situation. So now let me bring it down to the focus of the sessions that we're going to have. I think I have my great colleagues who would lead the conversation in these sessions. Sridhar will be talking about policy, and he would talk about how the food focus production, we need, in terms of agriculture, we need to switch from a production mentality versus sustainability and transformational tools that we can bring to bear on agricultural production. He would talk about regional versus importing of food, small family farms, and I'm sure he would talk about climate change and environmental footprint. And then the other session, Rob will be talking about the innovations that we are seeing within food and agriculture, and he would talk about some of the new technologies that he's involved directly and we are beginning to utilize to face a crisis in food situation, global food situation. So as I mentioned, the post-pandemic macro and microcurrents are plentiful. There are lots of them going on. And what is happening, we see dichotomies, bifurcations, paradoxes, divergences, and convergences. So that means going back to normal will not be easy, because when you have these current cross currents and when you have these paradoxes, things are extremely complex and there is no one single answer to anything or silver bullets. So, but as a scientist, as an investor, as an individual, I'm confident that we would find our way out of this crisis. And the way we would do it would be to harness the power of biology and by innovating in Agtech and food tech. And the question remains is, how do we harness this biology? How fast will we move? What kind of moves we would make and what kind of advances we could achieve? I am very positive and hopeful, and I hope that you enjoy the sessions, and I'll be seeing you after the session. For now, thank you so much and see you later.